Yes, I am.
The reading has started?
Yes.
No?
Yes, now.
Why didn't you tell me?
Oh, you were engrossed in tambourine drumming.
Tambourine drumming. That's what it is. Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Now, how are you today?
I'm fine. How
That's
about
good,
you?
that's good.
You're fine. We should have the reading the final chapter of Mr. Bonobo Bliss, a.k.a. Bo, please.
Okay.
Uh-huh. All right.
I just lured you into
You
that.
hate yourself.
I'm not going to host this. Okay, but you're right.
All right.
This is the last chapter, and I almost feel a sense of,
Yes.
I don't know, it's just, I hate to see it end.
Yes, well, we've enjoyed Bo. He's
Yeah,
been...
it's been a trip.
Okay.
Okay, for those who've been following me, everybody but Alfred, because sometimes he follows me and sometimes he doesn't. I know from what he tells me. This is chapter 25, which is the last chapter, and all of the things that have happened,
Hold it up for 1 minute, please.
Yes.
Hold it up for 1 minute.
Oh.
Okay, yes, we have. You just go in here a little bit. And so this is Mr. Bonobo Bliss, a.k.a. Bo. Can be purchased on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Author House. And the author's website is www.odiehawkins.com. Please continue.
Great. All the things that have happened. The Sharps are in Brazil. They've had to leave the United States because of, I picture something like the McCarthy era.
Oh, yeah.
When people were chased out of his yard because they were gay or whatever. These people had to leave because of the conservative leaning of the government at the time. 3 weeks after their arrival, still settling in, they hadn't had a chance to meet with Mr. Bonobo Bliss, but they often joked about it. I wonder how Bliss is enjoying South America. I wonder how South America is enjoying Bliss. The call came from Henrique de Souza himself. He was uncharacteristically solemn. Richard, Doña Max, this is not the good news. We think that Bliss may have gone down, may have crashed in the Amazon. His flight plan shows that the route of his flight, we are checking for him. I can assure you that all of the resources of the Souza organization will be used to look for him. Very sorry. They hugged each other, feeling the pain of having lost a child. In the immediate aftermath, there were many rumors of a few mistaken sightings. De Souza pulled in the best and most experienced Amazon hands money could buy. One of them, a small, wiry Indian Portuguese man, told them in blunt terms, after a month of fruitless searching, I tell Senor de Souza, I tell you also, this area where your friend go down, very, very large, like New York, like Montana, you understand? Yes, we know, the Amazon is huge. In this place he crashed down, some people don't know anybody. They don't like the outside world. They have the blowgun, poison, you understand? The search was gradually suspended. But we will always continue to check out any information that comes in. They decided to use their work as a redemptive crutch, a way to ease their thoughts about Mr. Bliss. They created an infrastructure that would screen children who were specifically space-oriented into special curriculum. I can never forget Kwanzaa Smith's resume about what it was like to be a 10-year-old who was in love with the heavens. We don't want to have a lab full of nerds sitting in front of computers. First, make it popular and then make it possible. They knew they were making progress when Carnival came to Sao Paulo and blocks of samba dancers and costume party types danced up the main street in space-age finery. One of the most popular songs for that year's Carnival was "Space is the place, space is the place, space is the place, space is the place." After a year of hard work, the chorus was none other than Zola Salena-Hawkins herself. After a year of hard work, traveling around Brazil and into neighboring countries to push for a South American space project, they took a soft look at each other and mumbled the magic word, Antigua. Antigua. 2 weeks would do it. They left on a D'Souza Airways jet with his blessing. Go, enjoy. All the work is no play make Deacon Max. Dull boy. His English is not so.
Okay.
They clearly understood the essence of his remark, if not the context. Antigua's waters blue waters welcomed them. Next, don't get me wrong, I love Brazil, but the place is so huge and there's always so much happening there. Sometimes I yearn for a smaller spot, someplace where I can reach out and touch both walls. We'll finalize the deeds for the house and all that before we leave this time. They were out on the beach, recovering from a gorgeous lunch of curried lobster and coconut-flavored rice, when their favorite waiter brought them the note. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Shaw, I would like to request your presence at my breakfast table tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. My driver will come for you at approximately 9:45. Attire will be informal. Faithfully yours, Minister of Tourism, Albert Brian David." "Your reply, sir," the waiter waited. "If the Minister of Tourism wants you, you gotta go. Tell him yes." They sprawled in their deck chairs, sipping after-lunch daiquiris. "Max, honey, what do you make of it? They gonna deport us?" "Please, don't joke like that. Well, we see what we see." He sipped, sighed, and sucked in the ocean breezes. The invitation said informal, but they decided the minister would be pleased to see them dressed in freshly pressed whites. They were met at the entrance of the minister's residence by a very dark gentleman wearing a suit that was 1.5 times whiter than theirs and twice as well starched. I wonder what kind of bleach he uses. Max whispered as they were led into the minister's dining room. A large, high-ceiling room with an old-fashioned fan in the ceiling kept it pleasantly cool. "Good morning," Minister David boomed out at them from the head of the table. "So glad you could come. Please join me." The minister was a short, barrel-chested man with a bullet bald head and a grand manner about him, instantly likable.
Yes. I know.
His wife, pretty-faced, pear-shaped, stood at the other end of the table, sprinkling a little wave of welcome to them, also instantly likable.
Okay.
My wife, Penelope. They shook hands all around and sat down. The food began to arrive immediately, expertly carried by 2 white-suited waiters. It took the 2 waiters about 3 minutes to grace the table with several pictures of different kinds of juices, bowls of exotic-smelling fruit, cups of fragrant coffee were poured, French bread and Swiss butter, marmalade. "How lovely," Max exclaimed. "My husband likes a good chop in the morning," Mrs. David said in her delightful Antigua lilt. The chops were a bit snackish, And it wasn't at all difficult to eat the delicious fruit, mashed Swiss butter and Scotch marmalade on a freshly baked French bread, sipped the fragrant coffee. They ate for several minutes, delighted with the textures and flavors. Mr. David, Your Excellency, this French bread is absolutely delicious. Where'd you get it from? Max asked. From France!
Of course.
The minister answered in his booming voice as his wife tittered behind her fingers. Richard Sharp laughed aloud at his wife's embarrassed expression. Yes, from France, direct, Mrs. Sharp. They bring it in every morning on Air France. You're quite right. It is delicious and we love it, don't we, dear?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mrs. David nodded agreeably, dipping a piece of bread in her coffee cup. Satiated with the fruit, the bread, butter, and marmalade, the foursomes settled back in their seats to savor a second cup of coffee as the waiters cleared the table. The minister, it's no one in particular, but as a general invitation, we have some excellent Antigua rum that would go quite well with your coffee. I know it's quite early, but Your Excellency, I can't imagine that would ever be too early to have an excellent Antiguan rum with my coffee. Well put, Mr. Sharp, well put.
Mm-hmm.
The man who ushered them in was instantly tableside, with a fifth of rum and 4 top-sized shot glasses. He poured 2 tots for each with a steady hand and bowed out. The minister held his cup out to touch theirs. One love.
One love.
He said, and took a full sip. They followed suit. The rum was excellent, and the coffee offered the perfect mix. Max and Dick showed their appreciation by licking their lips. Thank you, sir. This is excellent. Thank you. A quiet settled in as they sipped. The minister carefully placed his rum-laced coffee in a saucer and leaned forward with a mischievous gleam in both eyes. Now then, I'm sure you two are quite anxious, very curious about why I've invited you.
Mm-hmm.
They nodded, smiling, enjoying the subtle flavor of the 90-proof rum and the wonderful coffee.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I should like to tell you that I'm well aware of your interest in Antigua. After all, you've been here a couple of times over the years. I'm, after all, the Minister of Tourism. He smiled broadly and took another sip of his coffee. They smiled with him. In addition, I'm also quite aware of the important work you're doing for the Sousa organization in Brazil. He paused for dramatic effect. Which is why I've invited you here this morning. The Sharp sipped, looking puzzled. Mr. and Mrs. Sharp, we want you to take charge of the Antiguan space program.
It's an island, isn't it? Okay.
Max came closer, spewing a sip of rum across the
did.
table. Dick's lower jaw fell an inch. The minister, a good actor, knew when he had his audience in the palm of his hand. Please, don't misunderstand. I'm not talking about a really big space program, but just a small one that would attract a lot of attention, bring more tourists to our lovely delight. He became serious for the first time. You see, we've been priced out of the banana market by Central America, which was basically the only commodity we had for foreign exchange, for hard currency, bananas and tourism. The bananas are gone and the tourists are yet to come. I think there is a goodly number of tourists would be drawn to little Antigua to say, we're going to look at what we're talking about. A bit like the Jamaican bobsled team of a few years back, Dick added. Recovered now, smiling broadly. Exactly, sir, exactly. Your Excellency, how much, may I ask, are you prepared to spend on your program? My wife has done the figures. What does it come to, Penelope? $17,583.63.
Oh, Lord.
Approximately.
Remote control here.
Keep it in the family.
Keep hope alive. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That would be mostly for the carpenters to build a 1-story, maybe 2-story space cone. And to finish building that house, You want it over there on something beach. The proposition was so outrageous and the bribe so blatant, they were reduced to contagious laughter. The waiter quickly entered and poured 2 more tots each. So, Mr. and Mrs. Sharp, you'll do it? The minister asked anxiously. Yes, yes, yes.
I got it. Got to see what it looks like.
Max answered, laughed, tears trickling down from the corners of his eyes. Of course we'll do it. Dick second. How often have we been given the opportunity to do something so unique?
Yo, amen.
Oh, that's great, wonderful. The minister boomed. We'll begin to train some young men and women to become astronauts immediately. Sir, I'd hold off on that for a while, at least until we built a 2-story spaceship. Penelope David, the minister's wife, just a bit tipsy from unaccustomed tots of excellent Antiguan rum in her coffee, held a shaky cup up for a toast. One love, she called out. One love, they chorused. Epilogue. The Antiguan space cone. The Sharps smiled and laughed in each other's faces all the way back to their hotel. All that either one of them had to do was look the other in the eye and say, the Antigua space program. To provoke smiles and laughter. The taxi driver glanced in his rearview mirror at the giggling couple and smiled. Probably just got a spliff of our good Antiguan marijuana here. The desk clerk handed them the thickest telegram they either one had ever seen. It was from Enrique de Souza. They sprawled across their hotel bed to read it. Here, Max, you read it. It looks like the first chapter of a book. You have to be rich to telegraph these many words or own the telegraph company. Let's see what our friend is talking about. It was easy for them to visualize Enrique de Souza sipping strong black Brazilian coffee, smoking a fragrant Cuban cigar, answering and calling people inside and outside of his organization, dictating this long telegram to his secretary. Hello, my friends. This letter will be in good English because my secretary knows it well. I hope you're enjoying your vacation on Antigua, and I'm glad to hear that you have decided to assist the Minister of Tourism, Mr. David, with his Antigua space program. They exchanged surprised expression. News travels fast, doesn't it? My guess is that Mr. David was on the phone before we settled back in the taxi and started giggling at the audacity of the idea. We don't. Now then, I have the pleasure to bring you good news. Our man Bliss has been found alive. Yes, he is alive. This is the story given to me. Monsieur Yves Martin, the head of the Indigenous Languages Institute here in Sao Paulo, made contact with the Jivaro-Cojones Native Americans, the indigenous people. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. The Jivaro-Cojones have had a very bad reputation for many years. They have always been known to be nasty-tempered, fierce, willing to fight, as you would say, at the drop of a hat. They smiled at his attempt to use American slang. But now, it seems that some changes have happened, according to Monsieur Martin, who just recently spent 10 days with them. Here's the source of the information I'm giving you at this time. It seems that the Jivaro-Cojones people rescued our man Bliss when his plane crashed, and instead of boiling him in a pot, they decided to keep him captive. Quite soon afterwards, according to Monsieur Martin, the Jivaro-Cojones were preparing to go to war against their ancient enemies, the Negrito-Sangres. The Negrito-Sangres, Sangres, bloods.
Yes, okay.
Little black bloods.
Yes, black bloods, got it.
Bliss persuaded them not to fight as usual, but to have a love-in instead. The scheduled war did not occur, but it seems that a bumper crop of babies come into being since the love-in, a fertile result of that happening. These babies are called Jivaro-Cojones Negrito-Sangres, in celebration of the love-in and the joining of one tribe with another. The Jivaro-Cojones Negrito-Sangres represent a new generation, a new way of thinking about how to resolve conflicts.
Make love, not war. Okay.
Martin goes on to say that both tribal groups have given Bliss 7 beautiful girls to keep him happy, and is the way to conduct his own love-ins. In conclusion, Bliss wants to assure all of us that he's very happy where he is and that he will not be returning to civilization anytime soon. He sends his warmest regards to Dr. Maxwell Waters Sharp and to Mr. Richard Gregory Sharp. Well, my friends, that's all for now. I think forward to your return to Brazil, the country of the future, and always will be.
Yes.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Henrique de Souza. Dick Sharp and his wife curled themselves into a loving knot. Ain't life sweet, honey? Ain't life sweet? You can say that again, Mr. Sharp. Ain't life sweet? Oh, Dick, please. The Sharps became international commuters from Brazil to Antigua with an occasional side trip to the U.S. just to check on the state of the states. This is the Antigua space project, Space Cone.
Oh, Space Cone, my goodness.
Built from scratch.
Built definitely from scratch. Let me go.
Built from scratch, I say.
Yes, it's scratched.
By really good Antiguan carpenters.
There we go. That's, and I see all it needs is firewood to get it going.
Well, we don't talk about that. That's fuel.
Okay, that's fuel. Okay, yes indeed.
It's going to get to jet fuel in a minute.
Yes indeed. What an interesting concept. I love the concept.
I love the drawing that you did of the concept.
Yes, thank you.
I don't forget anything.
And that is there more?
3 weeks after the 3-story, they used the best carpenters in Antigua. They received an urgent call from Mr. Albert Bryan David, the Antigua Minister of Tourism. Mr. Sharp, Dr. Sharp, I have some exciting and very important news to share with you on your next visit. We're planning to come within the next 2 weeks. We have some important work to finish up here. I look forward to your arrival. 2 weeks later, arriving on one of the D'Souza organization planes, they were met by a delegation from His Excellency Albert Bryan David. Mr. David and his effervescent wife Penelope welcomed them with fragrant Antiguan coffee and the delicious Antiguan rum that they had developed a love for. One love, the minister toasted with a rum-laced cup of coffee. One love, they chorused and sipped. The minister's wife winked at them. The wink said, my husband, he's so full of drama, he loves to make theater out of things. Now then, my friends, let me update you on the Antigua space program. I also have pictures to show you, and tomorrow, after you have a good night's sleep, we will tour the site. We have followed your suggestions and instructions to the letter. I think you will be pleased with what we have done. He picked up an 8.5 by 11 folder photograph to show them. Here we have the main feature, the above the ground rocket silo. They studied the photo. It was made of wood with broad bands of metal circling the trunk. Looks very authentic from the air. How do you get the photographs from this angle? A friend of mine who specialized in aerial photography did the work. And as you can see, we have constructed a complex of buildings for astronomical space studies. Right now, at this time, we are scouring the countryside for young people to go through our intense 5-year space medicine program. We want the nations of the world to come to Antigua for the solution to their space medicine programs. We're going to name our first space medicine university the Waters Sharp College.
Okay.
The Sharps felt humbled by the honor, but they were still puzzled by the minister's urgency to see them in person. He could have faxed the photos and the information he was giving them. Mrs. Penelope David offered them another broad wink as the white-coated servant freshened up their coffees with more rum. Now then, my friend, let me share with you the best news of all. The minister leaned toward them, a bright gleam in his eyes. Our space program is being closely monitored by the CIA. He sat back in his chair, smiling broadly. The Sharp looked at each other, puzzled. The CIA? Good news? The minister leaned forward again to explain. Perhaps my residency is bugged at this time. No problem. I'm not saying anything I would like to hide.
Okay.
In any event, the buggers would have to have a place to stay when they come here, right?
Mm-hmm.
They nodded. But Mr. Davis said, the CIA? He took a big sip of his coffee before answering. It appears that they think we might be trying to build an interspace missile or something like that, maybe, to try to take over Jamaica or Barbados. Or maybe they think we're developing a nuclear capability.
No,
One thing we do know is that tourism has picked up 35% in the last quarter.
Very good.
Haven't you noticed all of these men and women out at the hotel with pinstripe suits and pale skins? Like they just left Washington or New York in the wintertime? But Mr. David, what if they should decide to invade Antigua? Then what? The Minister of Tourism looked distressed for a moment and then brightened. Do you think they would? Certainly we would not want to lose our independence, but think of the hard currency they would flow in. One of the things we know for certain, America makes good of the people that they conquer. On the way back to the hotel, after promising to keep track of developments within the Antiguan space program, they draped arms around each other and whispered, one love, one love. And at the end of the day, I'll show you one shadowed picture of Bonobo Bliss himself.
Oh my goodness.
Lord have mercy.
Oh, there he is.
I know you can't see his face or anything,
I know.
but you can see he's in the Amazon.
He is in the Amazon.
Yeah, he's in the
He's
Amazon.
having some good fun by him.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Not by himself. Not
With
like
other people.
With other people. Thank you very much.
You got
Okay,
that.
your fingers are kind of shadowing. Can you move? Ah, that's better. Yeah. Okay.
It's a shadow, deliberately shadowed photo.
Yes, Bo. Got it.
You don't want you to see his face.
I know. He's a mysterious man.
That's right.
All right. I appreciate that. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And what can I say? It's been a trip. I've enjoyed it.
Yes,
The journey
it
has
is.
been worth it.
Definitely.
And now, in the coming future, let's think about getting on to
Something new.
other things.
This is true.
That's all I got to say.
Why, thank
Hey.
you. Yes.
Be cool.
And
And
it
hit
is.
this.